Reflektive is a startup that I started 5 years ago. We're located in San Francisco, California, and we focus on employees. Our goal is to kind of help employees thrive, and our products are around evolving performance management. I'm sure a lot of you have done performance reviews. We build a solution that has performance reviews, which are kind of annual processes, and we also have a real-time feedback product to help employees learn throughout the year and develop throughout the year, an agile goal platform, and a check-in product as well for managers and employees to have better conversations throughout the year. So a lot of people. So when you think about before I started Reflektive, I worked at Disney, and I was building mobile games. The last thing I built was a Marvel Avengers game, and it's very different than HR software. So a lot of people kind of ask me, "Hey, how did you get into building HR software?" And I kind of think about like my experience at Disney, and really what happened was I was running a team of roughly 85 people, and it was the first time in my career that I had so many people reporting into me. And I had all these middle managers reporting into me who were the ones who actually managed the people in my org. And they had trouble managing their people. They would task manage, but they didn't know how to people manage. So they would tell people what they need to do next week, what they did well last week, but they didn't really help their employees figure out, what are their career goals? How do you develop them towards a career path? How do you give them the feedback they need to get better at what they do? And how do you set like clear priorities so they know they're even on track with what they're currently doing? And I just saw this as a really big gap. Like, how do you get your managers to manage their employees better and give them the experience they deserve? And so I went to HR when I was at Disney, and I asked them, "Hey, how do I solve this problem?" And they said, "Hey, why don't you run a performance review if you want your employees to get more feedback?" And that's when I kind of looked at just the HR industry in general, and I looked at kind of all the processes that have been built in HR are very top down, and when they're kind of built for compliance. They're built to extract data from employees. And when I think about like how even just the word human resources, it's an interesting term, right? It means you think of your humans as resources to be extracted from, and that's kind of how companies have thought about how that works. And it's funny if you think about it, like, hey, I have my 8 barrels of oil, my 10 bushels of this, and then I have my 20 humans, right? Like, it's a funny way to think about humans as just resources. So we try to flip it, and kind of the goal of like what I think how companies should focus on this is they should think about building, instead of calling it HR, we should call it RH, resources for humans. Like, how do we empower employees to thrive and do their best work? So it's been a mission of mine actually to do this, and really what I think about is like, how do I get companies to treat their employees better? And it's been really interesting because it's a tall order to think about, and luckily right when I was trying to do that, there's this interesting power shift that's happened in the world recently, where now, before 20 years ago, companies had all of the power, but now because of job mobility, now employees have all the power, and your employees are your customer at a company. And it's kind of it's a pretty monumental shift, and it changes kind of how people work, and it's a big influence on the future of work when you think about it. If you think about like now with employees being the center of the universe for companies, that changes how companies have to treat their employees. So it's actually become an economic imperative for companies to now focus on employee engagement. How do I, make sure my employees are getting the best experience here? How do I make sure that they get something out of this job so they don't leave? How do I build a career path for them so that they want to build a long-term career internally? There are a lot of things that are now imperative for companies to now build themselves. And so that became kind of a really cool way to kind of, at the exact same time I went on this mission, the market changed. A lot of big companies started kind of changing how they do things. And the first thing I thought about was performance management. You think about like, hey, if I want to shift like a big kind of process for the better, how do you do that? And you take a current process and you kind of add to it, and then you help people transition from the old to the new. And that's kind of what we've done at Reflektive. And so, early on as an entrepreneur, you try to figure out, hey, what's kind of a good way to, build a transition, and what's a good way to build like this product that I want to build. So I talked to a bunch of people, and I figured out, hey, if you want real-time talent development, you have to build a product that employees want to use, and you have to think about how they actually work. So we built this product that's actually integrated into your Gmail, your Outlook, and the cool thing about it is it's just frictionless and it's easy to give feedback, so you can give feedback whenever you want. But the reason why I'm talking about this is because we built this, and then we realized, to go to market, interestingly, you can't just build a new process. If you want someone to shift their process from an older process to a new process, you have to build both things. And then, so as a strategy, we built performance reviews, which is kind of the older process, and we built real-time feedback, and we built what are called check-ins, which are kind of better conversations between employees and managers, and an agile goal system. So we built kind of the older stuff and the newer stuff together, and the older stuff kind of became our Trojan horse to being able to sell the newer stuff. So if you think about it, like if a company is already ready to move to the new stuff, that's great, but very few are in this case. And there are a lot of large companies that take many years to switch a large process like this. So if you build the old, they can start with you, and then over time, you can transition them over. So yeah, over time, we've seen a lot of companies gain steam. What's really cool is when you try to go to market, you try to figure out what you have your new version of the process, and you want people to slowly move over. And we've kind of seen that happen over time, which is really, really great. We now have over 500 customers, and we have 150 employees over 2 offices, and we continue to grow. The next thing we're trying to do now is build out the rest of the stack. So when you think about kind of real-time talent development and the future of the workforce, the workforce is very different now, because just the way people work, it's so much faster and more iterative. So people have to be a lot more agile with what they do. Now, with email and with just like things changing, business dynamics changing, the internet, quick software development cycles, you need your team to be able to shift really quickly and on the fly be able to reprioritize business strategy. So there's a lot of kind of talk around how do you do that, and how do you kind of get a whole large company to be aligned as business strategy shifts. So there's kind of these kind of new kind of processes now around operational planning and goal management, where now companies, when they have shifts, say Amazon invents this new product and goes into grocery shopping, how do like other grocery stores kind of react to that? That stuff's happening all the time now. So there's these operational planning kind of modules that help companies kind of align all their employees and have them shift priorities throughout the year in a more quick way. So that's just one example, but we're just seeing a lot of things happening now in the world of work across the whole HR stack, from performance, from learning, engagement. All this is changing pretty rapidly, and it's exciting to see where it's all going to end out. Yeah, that's all I had. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the conference.